I found a friendly ship captain. He's willing to take us to Australia or Tahiti. We just need to pay for passage and give him money for land when we get there. No questions asked. We will disappear, be reborn.
Well, where the hell is Tahiti?
I've been asking myself the same question for 6 years.
What happens when a chapter that most of the fanbase hates actually turns out to be the single most important moment in the entire story? Well, in today's video we will take a closer look at Guarma itself, why it's so controversial, and how it quietly ends up being the turning point that destroys Dutch's dreams once and for all.
No.
Now, before diving into the video, please make sure to hit that like button and of course subscribe for a chance to win an RTX 7090 once this channel reaches 10 million. You know, just totally reasonable goals. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, if you played Red Dead Redemption 2 at least once, you probably already know that Guarma feels completely different from the rest of the game. And this entire ordeal was purposefully made by Rockstar to truly put in perspective how meaningless the gang's lives were to Dutch Vanderlyn. Now, in chapter 4, you already feel that the storm is coming. The gang is slowly being picked apart and they start losing member after member. But despite all of this, Dutch is still persistent with his dream of becoming a mango farmer.
Before the year is out, we are going to be harvesting mangoes in Tahiti.
Are you sure about that?
While trying to gather enough funds for the mango farm, he organizes a heist that leads to the demise of everyone's favorite characters besides Micah and Bill. After this, the gang is forced to leave Saint Denis behind and finishes off the chapter with a shipwreck that would even make the Titanic cry. After waking up stranded on the shore, you are stripped of your horse, your belongings, and most of your weapons. At this point, Rockstar basically turned Arthur into a reluctant tourist on an island nobody asked for. At first, and even second glance, the entire situation is jarring. The open world freedom that you got used to ends up getting replaced with a linear, almost claustrophobic sequence which makes you feel like you have no control. And in reality, you really don't, as you're forced into being a pawn fighting a war that's not really yours to fight. And look, I understand why it's so easy for people to dismiss the entire segment as nothing more than filler, but here's the thing, Guarma itself is not just some random filler done to prolong the runtime of an already long game. It's not a random vacation spot for Arthur and the boys to relax after acquiring half the assets of the Federal Reserve, and it certainly isn't just there to change up the pace of the game itself. This chapter is the moment where Dutch's grand illusion of an island paradise collapses in on itself.
Have some goddamn faith.
Up until this point in the story, Dutch looks like he knows what he's doing. Sure, Blackwater might have went sideways and yes, he might have had the gang commit multiple crimes across Valentine Roads and Saint Denis, but he still spoke with the same confidence from the beginning of the game.
Now, we are simple country folk. All we have is each other. And you have gone and you have took his son over some dispute with some inbred ex-slavers. It ain't got nothing to do with any one of us.
In a weird way, he was the ultimate salesman, but instead of selling any kind of actual goods, he sold hopes and dreams. His dream of an island paradise filled with mangoes, sunshine, and freedom is what made the gang feel like every disaster they had gone through was part of his master plan. But on Guarma, the Dutch that we spent 4 chapters with slowly starts showing his true colors.
I had a goddamn plan!
One of the most important moments comes in the Aguas Dulces caves when he strangles the old lady in front of Arthur. In this moment, we see Dutch choose control over compromise, something that will come into play in the final chapter of Arthur's story as it becomes a pattern Dutch keeps repeating until the end of the game. Here, we see how Arthur finally realizes that the man he thought he knew is even more sinister than he could ever imagine. The entire conversation that unfolds
Pledge to you all, we would survive, no matter what.
So how did you know she was gonna betray us? What'd she say?
It was in her eyes, in the way she was leading us.
But you said you knew Spanish.
I know human beings.
shows us that Dutch always knew what he was doing, and every action he took was an action that was deliberately done for his own good. Maybe the lady wouldn't have betrayed him, maybe she would, but to Dutch it didn't matter, as in that moment she was someone who stood up to him. This is extremely important, as later on when Arthur questions him and gives him a surprised look, Dutch starts seeing Arthur as nothing more than an expendable asset, even leaving him behind later down the line in chapter 6. This short interaction between between the two shows us that Dutch never really cared about Arthur. He only cared about having someone have his back.
Arthur, do you have my bag?
Now, moving on, another thing about Guarma that really makes me sad is the fact that Rockstar decided to cut out a lot of the content from Guarma itself, as initially it was planned to be fully open world, with side missions, treasures, and mysteries to solve, with even the option to return back to it later in the game with John. But this being scrapped actually makes perfect sense for what Guarma itself ended up representing. It was made purposefully to be on rails, to have you feel the same way that Arthur and the gang felt at the moment. It was there to make you feel like you had no way of actually escaping. The open world you were addicted to earlier was now stripped away from you. You had no horse, you couldn't hunt, or even visit a local store to buy some provisions.
I want all the money you got.
And at that point, even the missions forced you into firefights that you didn't sign up for. One moment you were with Hosea and Lenny partying around the campfire, and then in the next one you were on a tropical island watching a man who once felt like a father figure choke out the last ounce of trust you had left. So no, Guarma isn't filler. If you think that, you probably don't understand how important this entire chapter is. It's not a vacation, and it's not Rockstar stalling for some extra runtime. It's a narrative ambush made for you to see that Dutch only ever cared about himself. This entire chapter is there for you to see that Paradise is a scam. And no, I'm not talking about that shady crypto game your cousin told you would be better than GTA 6.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
In this particular instance, I'm talking about Guarma, but it could easily be Tahiti or any island nation that Dutch used as a way to keep the gang focused on making him more money. While most of the chapters spoil us with relative freedom, Guarma takes it away to prove a point. To prove to you that no matter how big the dream sounds and no matter how sweet Dutch makes it sound, in the end, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's nothing more than a scam, and the only thing waiting at the end of the road for these characters is another gunfight no one asked for. By the time the gang finally escapes the island, they are broken. The gang is smaller, weaker, and more fractured than it's ever been. Guarma isn't just a detour. It's a turning point where Dutch's words stop inspiring hope and start sounding like nails on a chalkboard. It's where Arthur and the player finally see that the Paradise scam Dutch has been running has been bleeding the gang dry since day one. A major reason why Guarma is as important as it is because this is where Arthur's fate is fully sealed. If they ran away to Mexico, for instance, or to a place where the climate was a bit more dry, Arthur could have seen out his last few years in peace. But with him getting beaten down by the harsh climate on Guarma, there was nothing he could do once he got back to the US and got his TB diagnosis.
Really sorry for you, son. It's a hell of a thing.
Rockstar could have easily made another sandbox island for the player to explore, and initially that was their plan. They could have given Arthur a horse, let him hunt tropical birds, and complete random side quests, but that right there would have defeated the entire point of the chapter. Guarma isn't meant to be explored. It's meant to suffocate you and show you Dutch for what he truly is, a snake oil salesman running out of snake oil.
This is all going to plan.
And this right here is why this is the best chapter in RDR2. Not because it's fun, as it really isn't, and we can all agree on that one, as the gameplay in this chapter really makes you feel like a bystander with no actual control of the situation. But in a way, that is a perfect tonal match for what the story is trying to tell. Guarma rips away the illusion of freedom and exposes the fact that Dutch's dream was never real. An island paradise was never coming, and even if they escaped to one, Dutch would make sure they were never truly safe. So yeah, Guarma might be short, it might be brutal and extremely linear, but that is absolutely essential to what it's trying to do story-wise. It might not be the chapter that people wanted, but it's the one that the story itself really needed. Hell, even I have to admit that to me, despite being a great chapter upon revisiting it now, I wish there was more to it, not in terms of story, but in terms of the content that was cut from it. I mean, you can't tell me that it wouldn't have been nice to return back to it later with John sometimes during the epilogue.
He's got a point.
Either way, whatever your thoughts about Guarma might be, this is a chapter that deserves more respect. Yes, the gameplay loop is a bit boring, and it might have been too linear for a lot of you folks, myself included, but after revisiting it for my last playthrough, I came to appreciate the hidden beauty behind the on-rails experience that it brings. Anyways, what do you guys think is the best chapter in RDR2? Which chapter do you think is the most important for the story, and which chapter do you think is the most underrated one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and a big thank you to all the 1,430 people that ended up subscribing. You folks are the best. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like button and of course subscribe for a chance to win our RTX 7090 card once this channel reaches 10 million. Stay silly, keep edging, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.